then he said, use some good English idea because I stayed and lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma for 7 years, and I graduated from Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology from there. So I said, from Oklahoma, this is how it started. The next day, they took me to my house and to do a follow-up story. And then he offered that if I would like to work with Washington Post. And I said, work like what? And he said, you know, I said, it's a newspaper, right? He said, yeah. And I thought, the only thing I know of the newspaper, they are destined to in the window glass. But I never thought about working one of them. In fact, I don't like even to read newspaper. Wow. This is how I started. The next day, he introduced me to the bureau chief, Rajiv Chandra Sitaran, and he offered me to work. And this is how I started. I started in the beginning to go out and work with Rajiv to translate for him, to show him the area. But then when I noticed that when they do the stories, sometimes they don't watch their back, and there is a lot of threats. And because I know the language, I was hearing what the people were saying. So I felt kind of responsibility toward those guys. And I look at those guys, they are not only writing stories from Iraq, but they are writing the history of my country. So I wanted to be there, be sure that those stories gonna be the right way, neutral, is not gonna take a side, because somebody in the future, he decided to write a history about my country. Definitely the Washington Post is gonna be one of the sources that he can use to follow up those stories. So this is how I started, and I didn't know anything about journalism. But in the beginning of the war, when all those big stars and the famous journalists came back to cover the story, this gave me a chance to work the best. And one of them is your teacher, Jackson. And every one of them has a different style in covering the stories and writing. And I learned from each one of them something. Until the time that it was very difficult for the journalists to go out and cover stories, or let's say their moving out was limited. They have to study the area, they have to know how dangerous it is, they have to evaluate how much time they have to spend there. This is when they start relying on Iraqi reporters, Iraqi journalists. The way I look at it, this was a new era in the journalism and covering the wars in Iraq. Because when you know the country and you know the language, you will be able to add more colors to the stories coming out of there. Something is very important probably for you guys to learn. When you go to a foreign country and you cover a story and you rely or use a translator, the words and the attitude you're gonna hear is the translator. If you know the language, you will be able to write better stories. This is why it's very important to choose a translator that first, he's neutral, so he doesn't take a side. Second, when he translate for you. He should be your ears and eyes. This is what Jackie Spinner was like used for. And this is how she worked with the translator. Because, like for example, if there was an explosion and you ask someone, if there is a fire, you ask someone, do you want to go there? And if you say, oh yeah, just like, he say, never. But the translator will translate like, oh yes. So probably to get it, oh yes, I will go there. This is how the translate sometimes it changes the story. So it's important that as like Jack Spinner, for example, one of those people, when the translator translates the story, she asks, like, what did he mean? What does he mean? What did she mean? To be sure that she got it right. And some translators, they admit that some very important journalists and have them put things that was not true in story. And as one of the editors of the Washington Post, he said the things that's not true, when it goes into a famous paper, it's going to be true. So you need to be careful on that. Covering the war and working in a war zone, you need to know what's going on. I don't want to use the word that you have to be professionals, because I met and I saw and I worked with some young journalists. They just graduated from college and went to Baghdad, and they worked and they wrote some beautiful stories. You need to know what's going on. It's very important if you know the language or you learn the language before you go there. But when you go there and you cover a story there, it's very important to know what you are facing. First of all, if there is a car bomb or there is a kidnapping or there is an incident, when you go there, first you have to know very fast who you are going to interview. Those people who are jumping and chanting and active, those people who are not there. You don't have to waste your time with. You will hear a bunch of lies, something true. Look for the people who are standing aside, scared. Their faces are yellow. Those people, they were there because they were so scared. Look at their body or their clothes, their death or blood. This is what you're gonna ask interview. Don't waste time by asking how many people died. You're gonna use official number from official later on. So don't waste your time on that. Ask them, because what you're gonna need, it's a couple of quotes from those people. And you have to move fast before the people notice that an American person is there, because you are targeted to be kidnapped, you are targeted to be hurt. Also, an American journalist, when he works in a war zone, he is a leader of a team, because Jackie probably knows that, and she agreed. When she goes out, she's leading a team of minimum of 7 or 8 people, drive, security guards, like that, translate. If something happened to them, she will be blaming herself. And as one of the editors said, there is no story worth you get killed for. So you have to move fast, you have to work fast, you have to ask fast, and return back before someone notices you are there. Also, something very important to know. You have to learn and have the ability to find a story. I work with people, they go out in the street early in the morning. They just drive around looking for a story. And I saw some of them, they wrote great stories about a cat leaving a house destroyed by a car bomb. because they have the ability to create stories. Some of the journalists who failed in Iraq, they wasted their time by rewriting stories. Yeah, they rewrite it in a very nice way. They use a very nice words, but it didn't draw the attention of the reader. Another thing you need to know that it depends on the paper you are going to work at. Your readers, for example, are American readers. But if you cover a story in Iraq or anywhere in the world, for example, if you will put down like 2 policemen killed in Zambia, who cares in the United States? An old woman in Georgia will never care about 2 policemen killed in Zambia, whatever. But you have to connect what's going on there, something in Iraq, for example, to something in the United States. Example, if there is a bomb or explosion and 2 policemen killed, if I tell stories like this, nobody cares. But if you say that US military are given training to the Iraqi police in Iraq, so when they will become capable, the US soldiers will return back to Iraq. This will draw the attention of the people because people who have relatives, sons, daughters, wife, husband in Iraq, they want to know when they are going to come back. And now the story is relating to them. And then you say, but it seems to be that they are not doing a good job, or what they are doing is not good, or the police is not learning, and because of that, a car bomb killed 2 policemen in Iraq. Now the story, because the stories goes to papers, and the papers need to be read, and also the owners need to make money. They need to have better sales to the papers. So this is another thing I learned from there, and this is how to come.
Could you tell us your favorite story or the story that you remember the most that you went out on assignment with while you were with the Post?
I was surprised really when Jackie really helped me to come to a workshop to study journalism at the University of Maryland, and it was in 2006. And I was surprised to see 3 of my stories was in the journalism department, journalism class books, and they were teaching the style of the story. My favorite story is there was in Iran was an incident that happened that 1,150 people killed in Iraq because of rumor that there is a car bomb and people are going to visit one of the Polish shrines in Baghdad. So because people start running away, one stop on the other one, and 1,100 something, 1,100 run. This talk came at the same time that in Louisiana was thunderstorm, whatever, over there. So I went there to cover the story, and then they called me from the office. They said, "Don't worry about that because what's going on in Louisiana is taking the whole page." I wanted to find a story. I mean, 1,150 people killed, and I want people to know about it. So I went there, and I thought if I would go on top of the bridge, there was a bridge on the river that, and I would cover that, people killed, nobody would care about that. I decided to go by the river because I saw some people waiting by the boat, by the boats, and there was people there waiting to see whoever will float and look for their beloved and son who will float by the river, who they throw them, stop them from the bridge, save their lives and died there. But I thought this is a better story. But when I looked at the other side of the river, and I saw those people who are thrown themselves are Shia. And Iraq was a big conflict, and the sectarian strife between the Shia and Sunnis, as guys know. So on the other side of the river, I saw people throwing themselves into the river, saving the people who are throwing themselves from the bridge. The people on the other side, because you know the culture and you know where you are at, you know that those people are Sunnis. So Sunnis are saying Shia, while people from Mecca army and others top of the bridge were warning the people. They said, if you go to Sunni area, don't eat anything from them because they poison. So I like the story that the people help each other while the parties are creating sectarians. This is how I cover the story. This is how I said that to the reporter was working with me. And till 6 o'clock at Washington time, the Louisiana story was taken in the whole page. After they read the story and they saw the details of what happened and how people was taking those injured people inside their houses, treat, and how they turned the mosques into clinics. The second day the front page came, half of the front page Louisiana, the lower half was the story from Baghdad. So I was able to, it was like a challenge. How can the people read the story? So it's very important when you believe in a story, the way you cover it, angle you take it, this is what's gonna pop itself with front page.
Okay, do you guys have any questions? They've got some questions, so if that's okay, we're gonna take some questions.
Yeah.
Let me know if you can hear them.
Yeah.
No fault of her own, for those of us who aren't going into international reporting, what should we do either as urban reporters or whatever field we get into to just keep in touch with the issues, and what would we like to see more from those kind of reporting in terms of connecting local reporting to like global issues?
Let me put the speaker higher than here for a minute.
Did you not hear that?
No, I will bring the speaker. Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to do it.
Okay, you repeat that?
Well, yeah, if you could. Sorry.
How's it going?
Hi.
So for those of us journalists who aren't going to do international reporting,
Yeah.
what would you want from us in terms of keeping up with international news, and how do you yourself keep up with international news now that you are based in the States? Thank you.
The most important that you do your homework. The best journalists I work with in Iraq, one of them is Jackie, as you know. They used to study everything before they go there. This is why I saw some of the journalists. They wrote the story, they go out only to get quotes. And they travel miles just to get the right quote. It's very important. If you don't know the language and it's hard for you to know the language, study the culture. Know how to deal with the people. If you make the people like you, you'll be able to go to a very dangerous places. This is what Jackie and the other people did. They were able. I know, even though that Jackie was almost she was almost kidnapped one time in Fallujah, but even though that this is not the only incidents, there are many. But we used to go and cover stories in very dangerous areas because we make the people like us, make the people trust us, and they trust you if they saw you care, even if this is against your belief. But you have to show them you care, and you will show them you care if you understand what they are doing, even if you don't believe in it. Because one of the things you have to learn is you have to be neutral. Take your feelings, your beliefs aside to write a neutral story. So you show the people, if you study why they are doing this, and you go there first, you will know how to ask questions. Your questions will be emphasized. and this is how you will be able to get good stories.
How do you get the second part of his question was how do you get your international news now? What are your sources? Do you read the newspaper? Do you go online? What do you watch on television?
You mean me?
Yeah, you. I know what I do.
Yeah. For me now, I would like to, the news I hear, I would to double check it with different sources. I read Washington Post, I read the New York, Los Angeles Times. I watch CNN. I watch Al Jazeera, even though I don't trust their news. But I want to, then I'll evaluate. I read, I go to internet, and most of the Arab websites, they have very good websites that can rely on to get stories, and also read the bloggers. The bloggers sometimes they evaluate things. This is how you get. This is how I read the news now, and this is how I get information about what's going on. In addition to the phone calls I do to people I know in Iran.
So can you guys help facilitate by coming over here? I'm sorry because the connection is just. They're going to come over and ask a little closer to the computer. So.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, my question to you is, I'm just kind of curious to know, like, what are the relationships like among translators? Do you all kind of like, do you interact with each other and say, like, hey, be careful what you share, and what's the relationship like among translators, am I right?
This is a very important question. And your question is, you know what's going on. The paper, really, when they hire they need to hire people that they should interview them and ask them several questions that, according to those questions, they know they are neutral or not. Most of the translators, who they work together in the same place, they face the same threats. A lot of them was almost get killed the same way, and they face the same fate. This kind of relationship is just like soldiers when they are in one unit and facing death or they are fighting. They might have other things different, but the job and place connected. Usually, there is no translator tell the others why did you do that, because relationship between the translator and the reporter. So probably the other translator will not find out the reporter wrote till like next day. But most of those guys are, they are doing their job. They translate things worldwide, and they don't add anything from what they believe. So this is why there is no conflict, because this is what the people are saying. We are just translating. And this is what I said. You need to ask the translator, what does that mean? Because sometimes people believe that they should translate everything word by word without adding something from what they believe, if this is true or not.
Actually, Creighton had one follow-up question. What was it?
Just out of curiosity, how competitive is the translation business?
How competitive is the business of being a translator or a special correspondent? How competitive is it? How hard was it? How hard is it to get hired?
Some people, they start translators and stay translators, and they can never be special correspondents or reporters. The people who started translators and then learn the profession from the journalists who work with, or they have the ability to write stories or to find stories or to look for stories, or they like journalism, those are the people who could be special correspondents. But the easiest is to stay as translator. Less risk, less responsibility, only translate what's going on. But also, some of the translators, they were afraid to go to danger area. And some of them, they didn't care. They go, they risk their life for us. So this is the kind of competition, but it's not competitive. Like when they start working as special correspondent, if I would change the question, the competition will be not between the translator or special correspondents and translators. The competition will be between the special correspondents of how to find better story to the paper. This is a competition, and the benefits the paper gonna get benefit out of this competition, because sometimes one thought have to, so they need to put them in different days.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. You said earlier you don't trust Al Jazeera. I think you said. Why don't you, and what sort of experiences have you had working with Al Jazeera?
No, it's not that. It's the way they cover the story. You know, you are as a journalist, you will be able to be a reporter just like Al Jazeera, or you could be a reporter just like New York Times or Washington Post or like that. It depends on you. Do you want to be neutral or not? If you work in a media station that taken aside, and I'm not talking about Al Jazeera. There is an American media, and I don't want to bring names now, also taken aside that you cannot trust their story. But so if you are the type of person you take aside, and you like to find that media is significant, this is what you will start to say. I'm not saying like, but focusing on things that mislead the reader or overworking you, and show the things that that could change the outlook of the people. This is their style. But Al Jazeera International, which is Al Jazeera, this is different. I trust those people. Those people are trying to cushion up. Some of the people that are hiring, very professional, very famous, very good people. Those are, I was talking about Jazeera Arab. This is the kind of.
Who else had a question? And it, you'll come on. You got it. When you hear start to wind down the question, get in front of it.
Hey, what would you say to Iraqis who were hesitant to speak to you? Like, what kind of tactics did you use, or people were hesitant to speak? Did you ultimately just decide it was better to just leave those people alone and not try to get them to speak?
One of the things, it's good that you remind me by this question, the best way to interview people in a countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, or a war zone like this, try first, if you are carrying a notebook, try to write as fast as possible. First, you don't have time. Second, people in that country, like Iraq, whatever, they don't like to be questioned and interviewed because they lived under a dictator, and they hate being questioned.
So what did you do? How did you get people to talk to you? You go up to there's a bombing. You're going up. How did you get people to talk to you?
Yeah. First of all, I relied on tape recorder on my pocket, small one. I go, and the way I start talking to the people, like, this is how I think. Oh my God, like, what happened? Like that. It's not like, what happened? Are you hurt? You are here? What happened? Who did that? What do you think? And see, like, how first, you okay? Did you lose someone? Show him first you care. You care for him. You care for him. Show him that you are not a selfish guy, just want to get a story and be famous because of his misery. This is how you get inside his heart. And then start asking questions, and then you tell him, I work with that paper. What do you think about that? What do you think? But try to get some kind of trust. This is how you get the best stories. This is different when you go interviewing officials. You don't have to do that because they know why you are there. They are waiting for you. It's like that. But I'm talking about street stories, which really will make you in the paper. This is how I deal with it.
Hi. This
Hi.
is more of a personal question. I know we read that your daughter, there was attempts to kidnap your daughter. unfortunately murdered. Did you ever experience any resentment from the rest of your family? Were they angry with you for what you were doing, or were they supportive?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I saw a very famous journalist. They get divorced, or they lost a very beautiful family life because their family or their wife didn't support them. One of the things that really I should mention, that if my wife was a kind of woman that she's scared and tried to not let me go out or risk my life for a paper, I wouldn't be able to do whatever I did. She never stopped me from going out to cover a story, even she knew that I was going to go for a car bomb. And there is a second and third car. If she stopped me, or she said, I want to write. I don't want to write them by myself. And probably she knows which journalist I'm mentioning that. I mentioned it. Probably I will stop them going out. So the family have a big role, and especially if they are married, even keeping the journalist and support by keeping working, or stop from doing that, then the world will lose a good story. So my family, yeah, they were scared, yeah. And every time, because I work hours, because of the different time between the United States and Iraq, we stay awake till 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I don't have time to return back home just to send a story. My family was scared. I lost 3 or 4 cousins because of that. I remember one time I was friend in another family when he told me, don't mention to that family you work with American organization. This is what I felt that people are scared. And I said, why? It's a paper. He said, yeah. They will scare, they will think that they are targeted now because they accepted at their house one work American organization. And if something wrong will happen to them, probably people will blame you. So yeah, this is how it is. But my